Otpor was a Serbian, non-violent, student-led protest movement that led a revolution against Serbian dictator Slobodan Milosevic in the year 2000. Otpor was founded after the passage of repressive media and university laws by Slobodan Milosevic's government in 1998. The organization was initially focused on gaining civil liberties, especially for university students in Serbia. Otpor initially spread through personal connections by university students across Serbia. It also spread through the music scene in Belgrade, which had taken a leading role in the opposition movement, especially among Serbian youths. After the NATO military intervention in 1999, Otpor realized that Slobodan Milosevic himself was the man responsible for destroying their country, and their focus shifted from civil rights for university students to the direct overthrow of Slobodan Milosevic. Eventually, the political opposition parties in Serbia realized they would never defeat Milosevic alone, and they heeded Otpor's calls to form a united front against him. Otpor had officially become the driving force behind the opposition movement in Serbia, not only politically but socially as well, as their humorous and populist tactics appealed to a much wider base across the country than the platform of any specific party. Otpor sought to put their opposition to Milosevic out into the open for the public to see. That way, according to them, they would reduce the public's fear of reprisals from the government, which they believed were keeping a lot of the public from actually opposing Milosevic. Otpor's tactics typically involved street theater and public humiliation of Milosevic. They also used extensive branding of their own name through distributing leaflets and spray painting their iconic logo all across Belgrade. On Milosevic's birthday, Otpor placed a large fake cake in the central square in the city of Niš. The cake was divided up into slices, each representing the regions of the former Yugoslavia that Otpor argued Milosevic tore apart. They also invited the public to sign a birthday card to Milosevic and included a basket of gifts for him, like a one-way ticket to The Hague, a prison uniform, and handcuffs. Otpor also had a campaign called A Dinar for Change, where they placed a large barrel with Milosevic's face on it in front of the National Theatre in Belgrade. They had a sign next to the barrel asking passers-by to put a dinar into the barrel in exchange for being allowed to kick Milosevic's face. Now, Otpor didn't just stand there asking the public to do this. They left the barrel in the middle of the square and allowed the public to do it themselves. After the barrel started receiving a lot of attention, the Serbian authorities were forced to arrest the barrel and take it to the city's jail. On New Year's Eve of 1999, Otpor held a large party for all Serbians to attend in the center of Belgrade, complete with various rock bands, which were seen as a sign of an opposition to Milosevic, who notoriously hated rock and roll music. The bands played all night as the citizens gathered and partied, and then at the stroke of midnight, Otpor stopped the music, and on a large projection screen displayed the names and faces of Serbians who had died during Milosevic's wars. The mood got very somber. Otpor then came out and told the Serbians that they had nothing to be celebrating, and instructed them to go home and think about what they could do so next year they would have a reason to celebrate. This was, as Otpor said, would be the year. July 27, 2000, Milosevic called for early parliamentary elections, expecting to solidify his hold over the country, because he would catch the opposition parties unprepared for a national election. An intense campaign ensued between Milosevic and the candidate the opposition parties had selected to be their leader, Vojislav Koštunica, a leader from the provinces. Otpor trained over 30,000 volunteers to monitor the election from the polling places across the country. If Milosevic was going to try and steal this election, he would have to do it from his seat of power in Belgrade. The elections were held on September 27, 2000, and according to official opposition numbers, Koštunica won over 51% of the vote. Milosevic, however, said he only won 48%, requiring a recount. During the recount, massive voter fraud took place, with thousands of people who had already died reportedly voting. After it became apparent that Milosevic was not going to step down, the nation erupted in strike, led by 17,000 coal miners at one mine which produced most of Serbia's energy, hoping that they would lead the rest of the country in a nationwide strike. Over the next 10 days, the strike intensified, particularly with the bus drivers and public transportation drivers of Belgrade shutting down the city. On the 10th day of the strike, 250,000 people from across Serbia, almost a quarter of the nation's population, descended on Belgrade. They rendezvoused outside the parliament building in Belgrade, demanding that Milosevic step down. Opposition leaders had contacted security and police forces through back-channel contacts before the protest occurred, ensuring that the police would not stand in the way of the revolution. Milosevic had been defeated, and the police knew it. When all of the Serbians arrived at the parliament building, they stormed the building, setting it on fire, and finding over 10,000 ballots for the recent election pre-marked for Milosevic. I guess you could say there were two fatalities. Though true to their non-violent roots, Otpor refused to allow any sort of violent protest occur during the strike. The two fatalities that did occur were a man being accidentally pushed in front of a bulldozer during the storming of the parliament building, and an 82-year-old man dying of a heart attack. Otpor developed the tenets of modern political nonviolent protest. Revolutionaries from across the world, from Egypt to Burma to Venezuela, have used their methods and tactics applied to their own situations to bring about nonviolent change. It is thanks to Otpor that millions of people across the world now believe in their ability to bring about change through nonviolent protest. It is because of Otpor that we've seen a string of nonviolent protest movements in areas famous for dictatorial leaders, such as the Middle East. It's because of Otpor that the people of Yemen, Tunisia, and Egypt now all have the right to choose their own leaders and their own futures. This is our project. Thanks for watching.